So he walked in that night.
Mhm.
The boys were in bed. I was reading in bed, and he said, "I'm going to die. They think I have this disease."
Wow.
And I looked at him because my husband, I'm the dramatic one. He's not the dramatic one. And I'm like, wait a second. He goes, "They think I have this thing called ALS." And I'm looking at him. He goes, "Yeah, they call it Lou Gehrig's." I go, "I don't know what that is either."
Yeah.
What? I guess, Rachel, they think I'm going to die. I go, "I'm sure this can't be right.
Someone is wrong. Someone has messed up. You have someone else's file with the same name, not me.
And then the next thing they say is, go get your affairs in order. You've got between 2 to 5 years, and you can come to the clinic every 3 months, and there's nothing we can do. And yet there are about 30,000 people a year that are living with it, and about 5 to 6,000 will be diagnosed each year, just in the United States. Okay. So that was kind of how that process started.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexie Callies. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in. Hi everybody, it's Lexie Callies with Sandwich Stories. I hope you're having a really great week, and I have a special guest today, and it is Rachel Kerr, and she's going to talk to us about what it was like to care for her husband, who had ALS, and then but also had 2 boys at the same time, and when they were young.
Yes.
They were young. She's going to give us a perspective of caring for a loved one in a little different way, but still feeling sandwiched at the same time. I feel that it's even though it's your spouse, I still feel it's it probably did still feel like a sandwiched situation.
Exactly.
And so I really appreciate you coming on my show today.
Well, thank you for having me, Lexie.
So tell us a little about yourself and just the beginning of your journey. So you were married.
John and I had been married for 21 years.
Okay.
I was that trailing spouse. I followed him all over the country.
And what did he do?
He was with trucks.
Oh, okay.
Peterbilt trucks.
Yes.
And so that's what took us all over the country from, we started out here in Dallas, and then to Philadelphia, and then Seattle, and then San Francisco, back to Dallas, then to Chicago, back to Dallas, then to Minneapolis.
My goodness.
So we did all of that in about 15 years.
Yeah.
And had the boys, both of them born in Chicago.
Okay.
And then, life took us to Minnesota.
Okay.
And things were great. And I had learned to adjust from all of these different moves that we had made. Boys were in school doing their thing. That's always a great way, of course, to get involved in community when you have the kids at that age.
And how old were they when you moved to Minnesota?
Oh, John was 2nd grade, and Jake was in preschool. He was Montessori.
Oh, my son is a Montessori kid too. I love it.
Yes. How much soap? He made soap.
Oh God. Ours was, he loved window washing work.
Okay.
And the needlework, where you get to needle point your name in cursive.
There you go.
That was a big one.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go.
Yes.
Montessori, great program.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Still do. So yeah, they were small, and we got settled in, and we had been there probably maybe 3 years, 4 years. Let's see, if John was 2nd grade. How old are you in 2nd grade?
7. Yeah.
7. So yeah, he was 10 years old when his dad was diagnosed. And so, so it was, John was just, we had a boat. We were outdoors a lot. He had been an athlete.
Yeah.
He didn't think too much about it. His foot started dropping. He saw the doctor for about a year, the neurologist, and ALS is very difficult to diagnose.
Yes.
Not unusual for it to take anywhere from 1 to 3 years to figure out what's going on. And as with your mom, it's not a diagnosis any doctor wants to give.
No.
And it's not a diagnosis that any patient wants to get.
No. And so when you were going through that, were you sticking with the same doctor, or did you try to find, did someone say, do we think it might be ALS and you might need to go see this specialist? I mean, being in Minnesota, you're close to Mayo. And so I didn't, were you close to Mayo, or did you have to, if you did go there, did you have to travel?
Yeah, it was about 2 hours away.
Okay.
But interestingly enough, Lexie,
Mhm.
the neurologist he said,
Yeah.
he knew John was going in for an executive physical,
Okay.
which Mayo does in addition to
Yes.
thousands of other things. And so he said, take the file.
Yes.
This is what we think it is.
Right.
You take the file and go.
Okay.
So John, this had been on the calendar for a while,
Mhm.
and he was going to go and do it. And he was just going to go up there, stay overnight, do what he needed to
Yeah.
do. And I was going to stay home with the boys. And so
Yeah.
he calls me and he says, no, I'm at Mayo. I'm coming home and they want you to come back with me. And I'm like,
Oh gosh.
what?
Yeah.
So he walked in that night. The
Mhm.
boys were in bed. I was reading in bed. And he said, I'm going to die. They think I have this disease.
Wow.
And I said,
he really eased you into it.
oh my gosh. And
he just really is
let's see. And I looked at him because my husband, I'm the dramatic one.
You're right.
He's not the dramatic one. And I'm like, wait a second. He goes, they think I have this thing called ALS. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, they call it Lou Gehrig. So I go, I don't know what that is either.
Yeah.
Slow down. What are you talking about?
Right. Yes.
Yes, Rachel, they think I'm going to die. I go, I'm sure this can't
Right.
be right.
Someone is wrong. Someone has messed up. You have someone else's file with the same name, not me.
Can't be.
Yeah.
And so he goes, well, they want you to come with me tomorrow. And I'm like, fine.
Okay.
I'll go to Mayo. We'll get this sorted out. No problem.
But
right?
I mean, then you have to scramble if you're going to 2 hours away with littles.
We take the kids get on the bus.
Okay.
They get on the bus. They go to school. We scramble up there.
Yes.
Do the thing. And so, yes, got a girlfriend to cover the kids because we ended up staying up there for another 2 days.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
While they did the test.
Wow.
And then they came back and confirmed it.
And what did the tests look like for ALS?
So muscles.
Yes.
And they're checking for the how do I say it? The twitching of the muscle. You can actually see the muscles twitching.
Mm-hmm.
They can't feel it, but you can see it. And then, of course, hitting for the reflexes, the strength test, right? And because there's so many things that it can mimic, like MS and some other things. And here's the thing, Lexie, I don't know if figuring it out has gotten any better. I mean, John's diagnosis was 17 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So, but when they do figure it out, they're pretty set on it.
Yes.
And then the next thing they say is go get your affairs in order. You've got between 2 to 5 years and you can come to the clinic every 3 months and we will monitor your progress.
Yep.
And there's nothing we can do.
I'm in the same boat with my mom. You come every quarter, hang out with us, check it off. Thank you for seeing us. Do you need medication refills? Moving on.
Okay. Well, at least they're asking you if you need meds. We didn't even get that. There are no meds. There are no meds to be gotten unless, later as the anxiety increases because your mind is completely acute.
It's intact.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, the fact that you could have an itch on your nose and you can't move your arm to scratch it.
Oh.
Or how about you want to turn over in bed and you can't?
Yeah, and you can't move. You're frozen.
Yeah. I think back on some of that now and I'm like, I don't know how my husband.
I would have gone insane. Like you just think, just like you said, you just need to scratch your nose, and how frustrating that is when you can do it, but you're in a situation where you can't, or whatever it is, you have things under your head, whatever it is, and you go nuts. I can't imagine being frozen and not be able to do that either.
And yet there are about 30,000 people a year that are living with it, and about 5,000 to 6,000 will be diagnosed each year, just in the United States.
Okay.
So that was kind of how that process started.
Okay.
And my family lives in Australia, his family in California. So we knew we could tell them and our immediate community wouldn't know about it. We made the choice not to tell our kids for about a year.
Okay.
Because the boys were so young. And you couldn't tell unless you really looked at John and saw that his walk was a little off.
Right.
He had the dropped foot. Yeah. He knew he didn't have the strength, but He wasn't having that much trouble.
Okay.
And that's the thing about ALS. It progresses with some people much more quickly, but in about a year, oh yeah, it became apparent something's really wrong with Dad.
And then did the children say something or notice?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we sat them down. And Jake was 8 at the time, and John was 12 because there's 4 years between them. And so we sat them down, and I knew it was just going to be a really difficult conversation, but you know, your kids get their cues from us.
Yes.
My husband, I knew, was just going to be much more emotional about it, because that's ALS also does kind of affect that emotional piece of our brain and sometimes heightens your emotional responses. But we sat down and we said, you know, Dad is sick and he has a disease, and this is what it's called. And Jake, the youngest, had 3 questions.
Okay.
The first one was, Dad, are you going to be in a wheelchair?
Okay. That's a valid question.
Yes, it is. And I thought, okay, out of everything, I don't know that I would have asked that right away, but are you going to be in a wheelchair? The answer was yes. Okay. All right. So that one was okay. The second was, are you going to get out of the wheelchair?
Oh, you're going to get better. Will it resolve itself? Yeah.
Yes. And we're like, no, Dad's probably not going to get out of the wheelchair. And then the third question was, is Dad going to get better?
Yeah.
Wheelchair or not?
Right.
And that was the one where,
that's the tough one.
Yeah. And you know, you never want to lie to your kids.
No.
We don't have to tell them everything.
No, they don't have to know
once.
all the nitty gritties, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They just, so we were like, you know what? Probably not. He's probably not going to get better. But what we do know is we serve a God who can cure anyone of anything at any time.
Right.
We will say our prayers every night and ask God to make Dad better. And in the meantime, we're just going to take care of him as best we can.
Right.
And with that, I mean, my husband's over here. He can't, he's in an
emotional state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the kids, you know, give him a hug. And they are off.
And off they go.
Yeah.
And what did your older one say? How was his reaction?
You know, John, he was taking it in, but Jake is the thinker.
Okay.
John is much more the gregarious kind of out there guy. He took it all in, and here's what happened. He went and told his friend Sam. Sam, my dad's got ALS, texted him. And then Sam's mom, I get the text. Rachel, Sam said, John's got ALS. Is this true?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. It is. And then it was like the whole community, you know, they say good news travels fast, bad news travels faster.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. But they all came.
Oh, they did.
They all came
they were great.
In droves.
They were, and that was the gift of having that time, I think, because John and I actually found ourselves comforting them.
Oh, okay.
Because the shock,
right.
We weren't in a state of shock,
right?
If there are degrees,
because you had a year to process, and it wasn't new to you.
Yes.
It was just new to everybody else.
Exactly.
And so you're able to help those who want to help work through it.
Exactly.
So that they can move on. They can get over that, like you said, shock, and then be able to help you however they can or want to. Exactly. Or you need them to.
Exactly. Yeah. Or there were a lot of people, and you may have found this too.
They go away.
Can't,
They go away. Yeah, it's hard.
And sometimes they never
don't come back. Yeah, that's the hard part, because you think, and I always found it was the people you don't expect.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah.
And in my case, we, for us, my mom's friend and my mom and dad's friend group was a really small group.
Yes.
And some people had moved away because they're retired. They do whatever they're going to do.
Yes.
And my dad had one brother, and his family had already passed away by 86. So by 86, my dad is left, and he had one cousin who was 8 years older. And because of COVID, there were choices made,
Okay.
and she has not been in our life. And then with my mom and her sister, there's always been a little animosity, and she has also stepped away.
Yeah.
And so, it's always, and then the people who you think, oh, they have their own family and their own kids and the grandkids and all the things, and they're
Yes.
going to be the one, they are going to be so busy, and they're the ones that are always around.
You are absolutely so right, Lexie.
Yeah.
And it still saddens me today.
It does. It saddens me today too about certain people that are not in my life right now, and it's hard.
It is.
And you want them, but you can't force them.
You're right.
And one day you hope they'll come back, and maybe they will, and they might not. But you have to, there's like a little hole in your heart that says that's like a space for them.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, you can come back and fill that.
Yes.
But it might just be there for always.
I know.
And it is hard. Yeah.
I know. And I don't think I really ever realized that until this happened. And so it was a great community. They really came alongside of us. They were so good. The boy, and we would wheel that wheelchair out to lacrosse games and baseball games. And that's the thing too, is if you're not in that world, which we weren't, handicap parking.
Oh gosh, I could, you know what, folks, I'm going to have a whole episode on accessibility. Maybe you need to come back. We're going to talk about accessibility because it's frustrating.
Thank you.
That's so frustrating.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Very nice way to put it, but it is very frustrating.
It is. And then, we're going to the school to watch a basketball game. We miss half of the game because we can't find a door, to get, because most of the front doors are locked and we have to find it.
Yeah,
I don't know how, I dealt with it for that span of my life, but on an absolute everyday basis.
I can't imagine.
But people do.
Yes. And God bless them, because it is hard, and it's not easy at all. Like you said, you deal with it a short period of time. I deal with it on a short period of time. But then when I'm out and about, I see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Once you've experienced it, you see it everywhere.
Exactly.
I always say it's kind of like that, whenever you see a cute handbag and you've never seen it before, and then all of a sudden everybody has this handbag, you're like, same thing. Once you see it one time, you will see it everywhere. And I think the same thing with accessibility. You see the problems. You see the one problem, and then you start seeing all the problems everywhere you go, even in places that should be accessible.
Exactly.
That are very accessible, that should be very accessible because of the people who live there or who frequent there or whatever. You think this is not.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing too, is that so many people, I know for my husband, well, of course it was a lot of work to get him, from here to down the ramp with the chair to the car, And then we got to a place where he had the motorized wheelchair where then we had to call a van to, wheel him in and do all this stuff. And then finally, he just got to a place where, like, Rachel, just go. It's just too hard. Yeah. I'll just stay here. And that's what happens, right? Is these people just isolate and they disappear.
Right.
And then we are left thinking, oh, it doesn't exist. They don't exist. And there's one gentleman that formed a group after he was diagnosed, and he had experience in the legislative piece of things. And he's like, this is the problem. Right. Nobody says, look at me. Yeah. I am ALS.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. This is it.
Yeah.
I am it.
Yeah.
And that's the name of his organization. And he has forced Congress to look.
Yeah. To see.
Yeah. Because finally, they were making people, so you get a terminal diagnosis. They were making them wait 4 months to get their Social Security disability.
Yeah, that's insane. No, it is
It took them
100%.
Took them 4 years to pass the bill.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No. Yeah.
So, and
there should be a way to fast track we should have a fast track to certain bills that just need to, you're like, no, these things can go to the side. We're going to fast track this one. This is important because this is not just some of these things. Yes, it's going to affect you and those with ALS, but others with other diseases and cancer diagnoses or whatever it might be, or sadly maybe an accident or whatever it is.
Yes.
You don't need to be waiting.
No.
You don't. To put families through that,
it's brutal.
I mean, it's also I say the same thing when it comes to seeing the doctors. And God forbid you have to see a specialist and they're new and you're a new patient. Like I told you when we were talking ahead of time, 6 months. 6 months to see the specialist. And I have known people who said that they needed to see a specialist when their parents were sick with whatever cancer. And they said, my mother passed away before we got to see that doctor because they said it was a year.
Okay,
and then she was gone.
That's ridiculous.
And so so like, when there are certain, and they're like, so you're on the waiting list. You're just like, can I get it going? I'm on the waiting list. Yes, if anybody cancels, let me know. I will be there tomorrow.
Exactly.
Whatever you say. And I'm sure you went through the same thing. You're like, yes, I need to see this person. However, whenever I've started seeing, agreeing to see PAs.
Yes.
Because I know that at least I'm in and they're easier to get in with. And if they feel you need to see their boss or the other level of specialist, they'll call them in.
Yes.
And you're there.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I'm sure that but yeah, to have to fast track, like you said, Social Security and all these other things.
Yes. And then also access to some of these drugs too.
Yes.
Now imagine you've got a terminal diagnosis. Okay, so there's some experimental drugs. Maybe the FDA hasn't approved them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're dying anyway.
Yeah. We'll do it.
What's the harm?
Yeah,
right?
What's the harm?
So that's another thing that you kind of go, and here's the thing too, Lexie, and you probably understand this, being able to make some decisions for yourself.
Yes.
Because so much is out of control. It's huge.
Yeah.
For the psyche.
Right.
Of you, the caregiver, and the person.
Yes.
That has the illness.
Right.
And you can't mitigate that. It is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Well, and for how young you were with these young boys, these are not always discussions you've had.
Exactly.
And or maybe you've kind of like, it's like, oh, if something should happen to me, I want blank. But it's not serious conversation that that you're sitting down and having this conversation.
Correct.
Because why would you think that at your age and how young you are and with your children and you have this whole life to live, and this is things you talk about when you get older.
Exactly.
And they're not. Yeah.
Exactly. And here's the thing. So, of course, my house became Grand Central Station. My parents actually came for the last 6 months of John's life, moved in with me. And then I had John's parents are divorced. So his mom and her husband would come. So I remember one day, Lexie, I have all 4 of them. The hospice nurses come in.
Yeah.
And she's doing blood pressure readings. All right. Because all 4 of them are on blood pressure meds.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not at this time. I'm not.
Yeah.
But she sits down and all of them are getting their cuffs read, and all of them are high.
Yes.
And I'm like, are you guys taking your meds? And they're like, well, I go, here, I can't take care of you right now.
I can't take care of you too.
They can't do it.
Yes.
My parents would just get in the car at night and drive themselves to the ER when their blood pressure got. One morning I woke up and I'm like, they were pulling in. I go, where have you guys been? Oh, we were at the ER all night. I go, really? They go, yeah, because we couldn't get the blood pressure down or whatever. I'm like, okay,
oh my gosh,
seriously?
Yeah, they need to all take their meds. Take your meds, please, people. Take your meds. Make sure your family are taking their medication. You don't need
Oh,
2, 3, 4 more people to care for, and you're trying to keep yourself sane.
yes,
You're trying to make sure that your children are okay
yes,
and sane,
yes,
and making sure, and
yeah.
kids never want a burden. People think
No,
I
you're
think
right.
people forget that about children. They see you working. They
Mhm.
see mom working, they see dad
Yes.
working. They don't want to be the next burden. They don't want to bring there are some, this is not all children.
Right.
There are some children who will bring you their problems and their emotions, and then other ones they just swallow it, and because they don't want to put it on you.
And or sometimes too, especially with I found for my
Mhm.
boys, they don't know how to
They don't
name
know
it.
how to say it.
Yeah, they don't know
Right.
how
They're
to
so young. They
yes.
don't know.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
like and it was probably another, another year or so.
Mhm.
They once they started to see, their dad
Mhm.
faltering or withering away,
Yes.
um, the older one who hit that 12,
Mhm.
13, 14 time
Yeah.
frame,
Yeah.
we started to see more acting out.
Yes.
Guys started to get more calls from school.
Mhm.
The experimentation started that I knew
Mm.
nothing about. Um, the other one who was so little, he was
Mhm.
fourth grade.
Yeah.
He's just, working along, doing his thing.
Mhm.
All of the teachers, the whole school, everybody, principals, everybody
Yeah.
knew about our
Right. Yeah.
situation, which was very helpful. But these kids, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we, how do you keep things normal when you've got somebody who's dying? How
Yeah,
do you
and
do that?
how do you keep it normal? How do you keep mm, like you said, someone's passing away. You also have all these extra people in your house
Yes.
that is not normal and
Right.
that will not be there forever. That will
Exactly.
go, that's temporary, and that will go away. The hospice nurse, palliative care,
Yes.
whatever it might be, whatever um, medical
The
devices,
equipment. Yes.
equipment,
Yes.
that will eventually go away.
Yes.
And yeah, so that none of this is normal, but
No.
you want them to be quote normal children, right? And that is hard.
Yeah.
And how did when it came to that, when did you ever have your children go to counseling or therapy or to work through this? Was that ever suggested? Um
That's such a good question, Lexi, because I will tell you, remember, this was 17 years
it was a
ago.
lot, yeah.
There was a person at the school.
Mhm.
I can't even tell you. Well, there was grief counseling available after their dad passed.
Right.
There wasn't anything really
Ahead of time.
ahead of time.
Mm,
I remember once during hospice, they offered music therapy. So they
okay.
brought in,
Mhm.
my husband was rolling his eyes the whole time. All right. Probably wasn't great that her choice was Nora Jones, Come Away With Me. That was a little
Yeah, no,
depressing for
that is depressing. I grew up with Nora Jones. She's lovely, but and I love her music. Nora, if you're
Yes,
watching,
yes,
I
yes,
love you and I love your
yes.
music so much.
But Come Away
But
With Me is
but when you have little that's maybe not the song you want
yes,
for children,
exactly.
and maybe that situation, she needed to read the room a bit.
Yeah, and so my husband was just like, "This is not happening
Well,
again."
okay.
So I will tell you, no. The flat out answer would be no.
Okay.
And I didn't even I quite honestly, Lexi, I can't even say that I thought about that.
Right.
How terrible for me.
No.
But during
No,
that,
you have
well, I went to a therapist myself though
oh,
and
okay.
said, I've never helped anybody die. So how am I
Yeah.
supposed to
How
do
yes,
this?
yes.
I don't know how to do this.
Mhm.
And yet for my kids, I just thought, okay, they're going to take their cues from me
Mhm.
and we're just going to keep, but they were so good with if we needed help getting John out of the bed or getting
Right.
John into the wheelchair or
Yeah.
getting daddy to the potty, or
Mhm.
they were so good and did what
They
they
were
could for so
yeah.
long. I don't really know that I really understood, because even for myself, what was absolutely happening
Yeah.
during all of that,
Right.
because you get so busy just doing.
Yes. It's like blinders.
Yes.
You're in the tunnel.
Yes.
In my household, you just soldier on. You pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you
Yes.
march forward,
Yes.
and you soldier on, and you don't think about anything else that's going on,
Mhm.
and you move forward.
Mhm.
And that is life.
And then you're so
And then,
exhausted at the
yes.
end of the day, you're like, I can't even think about how could I possibly take care of myself other than to hope I sleep tonight so I can get
Yes.
up and do it all again tomorrow.
Yes. And your kids love their dad and they want to help and be with him and do all the things that need to be done for him.
Yes.
Because they care.
They do.
And they care for you and they want to help.
They do.
They want to
And
be
once
helpful.
again,
Yeah.
they don't know exactly how to do that.
Right.
And I will tell you too, because my husband, I think, was so wrapped up in, he wanted to make sure that they thought well of him, which of course they were going to,
Yeah.
but he did not want to be the disciplinarian
Oh,
at all.
anymore. You were, yeah. So now you get another role. Yay.
And I'm like,
Same for
are you?
mom.
And we had made, I never will forget
Yeah.
this. We had made an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest was playing lacrosse.
Okay.
He had to make B's
Okay.
in order to do the select team.
Okay. That's reasonable.
We had agreed to that.
Yeah.
John and I confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
all good.
Yes.
Little John knew.
Everybody knew.
Okay, it didn't happen.
Oh,
He
no.
got a C in something.
Yeah.
And I said, we're not
done.
doing
We're
it.
not doing it. Yeah.
My husband's like, no, we're going. I said, no, I'm not getting in the car. John couldn't drive at this time. I'm not driving. I'm not taking him.
Yeah.
So he goes, Opa, my dad,
Yeah.
Opa, you drive. We're taking John. We're going to the first meeting.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad,
He's a rock in a hard place, right?
He did it. We talked, yeah. And I looked at my husband. I'm like, this isn't what we agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, well, Rachel, we're going to do it.
He doesn't want to be loved. I'm sure it was that thought that I don't want my son. This is the one thing my son will hold on to for the rest of his life. This one moment when daddy wouldn't let me. And he will think poorly of me for the rest of his life throughout all of his days.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to be the nice guy and the pushover all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what a burden for you. I mean, that's hard for you because that even if there is no illness,
correct,
the battles as a parent sometimes that you think, oh, well, maybe they could go do this.
yeah.
Maybe they could. And but then the other parent is so, no, this is what we've said. We're not doing this.
Yes.
And it's always the moms. Most of the time. In my household, it's mostly me. I stick to it. My husband is the fun parent. We always know this. But I think it's, ever since our son was little, he goes to the office. He gets only so much of the day. He doesn't want to be stuck fighting or being the bad guy because he's had whatever type of day at the office. And he's like, I've already had a tough day. I don't want to have a tough time at home. I just want to have fun.
Understood.
And so it's, even if it's, hey, when they're little, it's like, it's bedtime. We need to be done. Yes, I know you love reading stories with your son every night, but you've read 10. Yeah. And he's still going to wake up at the same time, regardless of bedtime.
Exactly.
Y'all need to be done now. And then, or whatever, as they're getting older, it's like, he was, he said my son is 13. So we're going through the whole sassy pants thing and back talk. And I was like, the way he talked to me today, I'm done. Yeah. He's not going to, are you not going to let him have his Switch when his friends come over and they all have theirs? And I'm like they went off to Boy Scout camp this week.
Okay.
No electronics at Boy Scout camp, but they were going to Arkansas. The car ride is long.
All right.
They all were allowed to take their Switches. And my son has a phone. And I said, yeah, no phone. Who you texting?
Yeah.
They're all with you.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I told my husband, I was like, yeah, no phone. but Dad, and so then it was, well, we're not driving him. Let's see what see if the other kids in the car
No.
are allowed to have their phone. And I said, okay. So our neighbor was the one driving the car that my son is in. And I said, are you letting your son have his phone too? Yeah, I think for the car ride. And so Shannon, my husband, and my son Shelby both look at me like, my husband's like, well, I guess he can have it for the car ride. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Okay, and how much time did we spend in the car growing up just
staring out the window?
Yeah, just, poking each other in the car. I don't know, doing whatever.
Yeah, no, we've all been there. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that you're dealing with all the extras on top of these typical parental issues.
Exactly. And then throw in a grandparent or two.
Oh yeah, because they all have an opinion.
And it's a stressful time
Yes,
already.
they're all everybody has an opinion.
Yes.
We all have different emotions because of however you react to stress.
Exactly.
Whether it's just swallow it and do it and just move forward and we're a doer.
Yeah.
Or the one who is in the corner every other night crying because it's too much. And then, but yeah, you still have to make the ship sail.
You do.
And keep going. And yeah, that's super hard.
Yeah. It did add another dimension to a situation that of course was already, challenging.
Right. And that, yeah, to have to go through your own journey of the upcoming loss.
Yeah.
And
what do they call it? Anticipatory grief,
yes,
right?
yes.
We started grieving the day we got the news.
Right, exactly.
Because the life we thought we were going to have
is gone.
Correct.
Yes. No, we've all had that. My mom has had that with my dad. And of course, with my dad having FTD, that's, like they say, it's the longest goodbye. Because the person that you've been with for 40 years is not there, but they're there.
They're there.
They're
physically,
there.
They're there.
They're physically there.
Yeah.
They're not there. And of course, with FTD, you don't know. Like my dad lost the ability to speak, so it's like, does he know what's going on? He could respond if you really asked him to, or he would say things. My dad was always wanting to go in the car.
Really?
God help us all with that.
He
man
liked
out
the
of the
car.
car. Because you could have driven him to Dallas and Austin and back and be home 5 minutes. We're going in the car. Like, okay. And also, so he could say that because that was what he wanted. And then also my watch says it's 5 after 5. What does your watch say? My watch says it's 6 after 5. What does your watch say? So he had some ability to speak.
Yes.
But it was very specific.
Oh.
We called it the carousel.
The carousel.
So we talk about it now that even with my son, I was like, we're on the carousel. And I would like to get off the carousel.
Nice.
And I'm done with this ride. We've gone around in circles.
Yes.
About 10 times and we're finished right now and I'm getting off the carousel. Yeah. So song of the week. And I always say, I try to bring songs that I asked you to bring a song that uplifts you or makes you feel good, gets you out of your funk. Yes. And it does not matter what genre. If there is a song that makes you feel good, there it is.
Bring it.
It's speaking to you, and that's all that matters. Yes. So what is the song of the week from you?
So I brought one from a faith-based artist named Mandisa.
Okay.
You may be familiar with her. This is a song that's off of a soundtrack called The Message. And it's people who may or may not be familiar with the book of Esther. Esther was a queen who you will hear people say, you were born for a time such as this. And so that's the name of the song. Okay. It's called You Were Born for This.
Okay.
So whatever you are going through in your life, you were born for this. Right. And so Mandisa is no longer with us, but beautiful, soulful, just gifted artist. So you may be familiar with her. If you're not, I think you will absolutely, I enjoy this because it just reminds me that no matter what, um, I was born for this. And one of the lines says, even before your heart could take the risk, you were born for this.
Okay.
So that's what
I do know of Mandisa.
Mandisa.
I have not listened to a lot of her music, but I
Okay.
know of her.
Yes.
My husband probably knows of her more than I do.
Really?
Yes, he is the one who carries the faith in our family.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out, and find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.